Let's move on to the NFL. So the trade deadline has come and gone, as I said. And a lot of teams had evaluated themselves heading into this weekend, as they should be doing. You're almost halfway through the season. So I feel like at this point, many teams kind of know what they are and know what they need. One thing that you don't expect is you don't expect there to be a catastrophic injury heading into the trade deadline. You kind of expect things to be on the up and up, and you hope that you're going in with the healthiest team possible. The Vikings had a little bit of a resurgence. They started out very slow, 0-3. Since that time, though, have been 4-1. And Kirk Cousins had been having one of his best statistical seasons of all time, even with Justin Jefferson not in the lineup being injured. And now that contract situation is, of course, floating in the air. Kirk Cousins had led this team back to a 500 record. He got hurt in this last week's game, and it sucks because he tore his Achilles. He is out for the season. And it sucks even more for the Minnesota Vikings because now you're in this place where the trade deadline is here and you need something now. You know that you need something and you don't have a lot of time to evaluate. You don't have a lot of time to work and negotiate. You've just got to get something. I just want to say this, though, before we get to evaluating this trade. Kirk Cousins gets a lot of crap for being who he is. He gets a lot of crap for being what I call a plain white bread guy. Nothing wrong with that. He is who he is. He's comfortable with who he is. He gets a lot of crap for being a not great statistical quarterback in prime time. Doesn't win a lot in prime time. He gets a lot of flack for not making a lot of risky throws. He's a little bit more conservative, stays close to the vest, but he still puts up great numbers. His team, he's been on some great teams. That Vikings team last year should have been better than they were. And you have to ask yourself, why did they take a 13-win season and lose to the Giants at home in the playoffs? I don't know. Any team on any Sunday on any given day can beat any team. So is all of that narrative on Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I was one of those people who thought that Kirk Cousins was kind of a joke. He's lame, he's white, all of those things about him. But after watching the documentary Quarterback on Netflix, I got a deeper appreciation for who Kirk Cousins was, not only as a quarterback, but as a human being. And I appreciate Kirk Cousins. I'm rooting for Kirk Cousins. And seeing him get hurt, it kind of sucks because I think that they were in this position 0-3. Everybody thought that they were gone. Everybody thought they were down and out. And he was bringing this team back without Justin Jefferson. And now you are in a position where this could be a great redemption story. People think that you're dead. They think that you're going to get traded. And boom, here you come. You come right back. And I love everything about this story. And it sucks that he hurt himself. But if you want to know anything about Kirk Cousins, and you can go look this up on Twitter or any other social media account, that night after he tore his Achilles, he still attends a kids' trick-or-treat thing with the Minnesota Vikings. That's awesome. I keep telling people that athletes who have this platform, who have the ability to make influence and change lives, they should be using it as often as possible. And I think that Kirk Cousins embodies that. I think that he does that. And I think it's awesome where your year is over. You don't know what your career holds now because many people think that you're going to be jettisoned from the Vikings at some point. And you have a lot that you could be thinking about, a lot that you could feel bad about yourself for. And instead, he goes and does his obligation and still is a great guy. I think that's an awesome thing. We should be rooting for more players like that. Okay, sure. Maybe he doesn't do everything that you think he should do on the football field. He's a damn good football player. He's a damn good quarterback. And I still contend that many teams would kill for him. If the Jets had him, they'd be good. They would be good. He's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not Zach Wilson. So keep that in mind. So now what do the Vikings do, though, with an injured quarterback situation? They cannot survive with their backup, who is a rookie, and they needed to find some stopgap to maybe keep the wheels on this thing. So they call up the Arizona Cardinals, and they ask for Josh Dobbs. The Arizona Cardinals are in full tank mode, in my opinion. Kyler Murray was a healthy scratch last week. Josh Dobbs has still played. And so basically the Cardinals say, yeah, you can have him. They get a 7th-round pick for him. Basically got him for free. A 7th-round pick is nothing. I understand that Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, but a 7th-round pick is nothing. Mostly, if you want to know, draft capital is really nothing. It depends on how high the draft pick is and all that. And yes, if you get rid of too many draft picks in rounds 3 through 5 or 3 through 6, you're losing opportunities to create depth for your football team. That I understand. 7th-round pick, though, they basically gave him to him for free. Here's the thing about Josh Dobbs. Is he elite? Absolutely not. Is he great? Probably not. Is he good? Debatable. He's serviceable, though. He's more serviceable than a rookie quarterback is going to be. And the Vikings are looking at themselves saying, what could we do if we get serviceable quarterback play? Because they're 500. They're not out of it yet. They're not 2-6 or 1-7. 3-5 is even kind of a pushy record to have to think that we can still do something. They're 4-4, having won 4 out of their last 5, and actually beaten some pretty decent teams to get there in prime time. Josh Dobbs has played really, really hard for the Arizona Cardinals. They brought him in August, made him the starter, and he said he didn't know anybody's name. He barely knew the playbook, and they threw him out there. They threw him out there in a move that let you know we do not want to win this season. And okay, that's fine. Josh Dobbs went out there and played his ass off. He played his ass off, and that team has been playing their ass off. They're not talented. Nobody's expecting them to win, but they beat the Dallas Cowboys, and they beat them good. That's a game that the Dallas Cowboys always lose every year, but Josh Dobbs made that happen. Again, he's not good. He's not great. He's not elite, but he's serviceable. And that's what they need right now. They need something because they believe that in that division and with the wild card situation where it is, that they can make a run. And good for them. They did a very low-risk move for nothing. They basically cost them nothing. And so Josh Dobbs is going to go there, and he's going to be welcomed with open arms by this team because they were feeling it. Justin Jefferson will come back. He'll have better weapons to throw to than he did in Arizona. You never know. A lot of people are shitting on this guy, saying that he sucks, he's no good, and maybe that's the case. But again, there's a rookie quarterback that they weren't planning on starting. They have no chance with that. Zero chance. It's not fair to the rook, really. So they bring in Josh Dobbs, and if Josh Dobbs doesn't do the job, then you can bring the rookie in. Because at that point, if Josh Dobbs doesn't do it, then you know that the team is not very good, and you need to start thinking about next year. But at the trade deadline, halfway through the season, many teams still feel like they're in it. And the Vikings obviously do. So I think it's a decent move. Because again, they didn't give up a lot for him. The Cardinals could have asked for more. They didn't. Cardinals don't care. They may or may not start Kyler. Who knows? But all I know is that Kyler Murray will be on the market next year. Kirk Cousins may be on the market next year. But as far as the Vikings are concerned this year, they're not quite sure whether they're buyers or sellers. So they went out and did something reasonable. And you can't really fault them for that. I do wonder, though, how much will this affect Justin Jefferson's contract situation? Because his contract situation is kind of up in the air. A lot of people assume that he doesn't want to be in Minnesota because they were losing. Kirk Cousins wasn't playing or wasn't getting him the ball, I guess, at the clip that people thought that he should. I think that Justin Jefferson really likes Kirk Cousins. And I think that if the money is right, he's going to stay wherever it is that the money is right. I think that they have a chance to win if Kirk Cousins stays there, but Kirk Cousins isn't getting any younger. So if Justin Jefferson is going to stay in Minnesota long term, he's going to have to know that there's going to be a turnover. I don't think that the trade for Josh Dobbs really does anything. If anything, if Josh Dobbs plays well enough and the team decides that they're going to keep Kirk Cousins, it may force Justin Jefferson to think about staying. At the end of the day, though, I think that Justin Jefferson is going to get paid a lot of money. The Vikings are obviously incentivized to keep him around as long as possible. He's going to get paid, folks. So just let him go get paid somewhere, and he'll end up playing wherever the money is best and the situation is best. What we don't know about Justin Jefferson yet is if he is a guy who values winning more than the actual contract. In a sport like that where it's so violent, you should go out and get your money any way that you can, period. I didn't like the Deshaun Watson contract, but I can't fault him for signing it or asking for it. Why not? This is a sport in which these franchises will throw you away at the drop of a hat. Ask Kyler Murray that. Kyler Murray, who was a first-round draft pick by Cliff Kingsbury, and now he's probably not going to be a Cardinal next year. Who knows what's going to happen with his trajectory? We don't know. So a lot of things can change, but I don't think that this changes anything about Justin Jefferson. I do think it's worth watching, though, if the team completely tanks from here on out. Jefferson may not be incentivized to come back as quickly, maybe thinking in business terms. I got to make sure I save myself. So let's watch that and see what happens. But other teams that made some splashes in the trade deadline, this wasn't exactly like a crazy trade deadline, but there were a lot of teams before. Now, a little disclosure, I was going to record this a day prior. I'm glad that I didn't because a lot of the trades would have actually been done by the time I recorded this. So now I have the full breadth of trades in front of me. But as I was preparing for this episode and as I was preparing for the show, I was thinking, what teams are in need of something right now? good teams are in need of something right now. We all know that the bad teams should be incentivized to dump anything that they can to look toward the future. But the good teams, and the Vikings I don't consider a good team. I think that they're a team that is sort of in that purgatory. But good teams know what they need. And the 49ers are always a team and a squad that seems to always, or at least lately, made the move that gave them an edge. And so this time, they went out into the trade market and knew they needed one thing. Now, I think that they need more because I think that at quarterback, they have some questions. They have some injuries on offense with Debo, of course. But defensively, they needed some edge rush. They needed somebody to complement Nick Bosa on that defensive line. And they went out and did it. The Washington Commanders, after losing to the Eagles this weekend, decided, we're done. We're going to get what we can for some of these young players and see what we can do, probably with a new head coach. They obviously have Sam Howell. I think that they're going to stay with him. So Chase Young is a guy that they get rid of. He's a guy who comes from Ohio State. I'll be honest with you, has a very high ceiling, but hasn't been able to stay on the field. This year, he's been healthy. He's had a good season, a resurgent season. And they were able to get him for a third-round pick, I believe, which is just, it's kind of insane. Again, I understand that there is value in rounds 3 through 6, especially if you're doing drafting correctly. But how many teams are doing drafting truly correctly? I would say not many, because I just think that the evaluation is hard. All I know is that a third-round pick for a guy that could absolutely have a huge impact on the defensive line and make them a formidable force for a lot of these teams that aren't the Eagles, who don't have these ridiculous offensive lines, that's a way you bolster your squad at the trade deadline without giving up too much. They didn't mortgage the farm. They didn't have to give up what they gave up for Christian McCaffrey last year. So I think they did a great thing. And if their health comes back and Brock Purdy is able to right his own ship, the 49ers are going to continue to be a great team, even though they've had this 3-game skid. So I thought that was a great trade. The Bills obviously had needed some help defensively. And so they end up going and getting Rasul Douglas from the Packers. And they didn't give up a whole lot for him either. Again, it depends on how you feel about draft capital. But they knew they weren't going to be able to survive with the injuries that they have on their defense. And even though their offense is capable of putting up a lot of points, you still need that defense that's going to be able to get stops when you need it. And I thought the Bills did a very reasonable thing, shoring up their secondary. And I thought that was a good move. Same thing with the Eagles. The Eagles basically swapped safeties with the Titans, and the Titans know that they're gone. We don't know what's going to happen with Mike Vrabel. We know that Tannehill's probably out. Will Levis is in. And so they decide to swap, and the Eagles get Kevin Byard. And I think that's a great move because they're not going to pay him in Tennessee. He's going to go to the Eagles, maybe win a Super Bowl there, maybe be incentivized to stay. If not, he's going to get a big contract somewhere else when you play for a great team in the spotlight, make some big plays in a playoff run. Always a great thing. So the Eagles do something reasonable. They shore up something that they know that they need help with. And again, good teams continue to get better within the margins. You don't have to do this huge splash. Last year, they got McCaffrey, the 49ers did. They didn't have to do that. Last year, the Eagles went and got A.J. Brown. Not at the trade deadline before in the offseason, but still, it's an upgrade, a massive upgrade. And maybe you could say that the 49ers did that, but is Chase Young really this massive upgrade? He's a necessary upgrade. It's a big difference there. And again, the Eagles just continue to get better and try to build upon what they have from last year heading into this year. The Giants, of course, know that they're out of it, and so they trade defensive lineman Leonard Williams to the Seattle Seahawks, who are still very much in it. The Giants are a complete mess, a dumpster fire, and why keep a guy that you know that you're not going to re-sign? Very smart move. I want to talk about a franchise that is not smart. Now, I did a lot of dumping on the Las Vegas Raiders earlier in this episode, and I think it's fair. The Chicago Bears, equally as much of a dumpster fire as the Las Vegas Raiders, but in different ways. This is now the second year in a row that the Chicago Bears have traded for assets coming to them with high draft picks. So they trade for Montez Sweat from the Commanders, who again, Commanders doing the smart thing, getting rid of guys that they know are going to give them something in return. And the Bears, I think, give up a third-round pick or something. Why? The Bears are not in this. Justin Fields is hurt. They're starting their backup quarterback, who we know has a good arm, but is he really going to do anything this year? Probably not. The Bears are not in a place where they should be adding pieces like that for that kind of a price. Come on. This is a poorly run organization. From the coaching, from the GM, everything. It's just weird. It's weird. If you're a Chicago Bears fan today, shout out to you, Ryan Leskis, but if you're a Chicago Bears fan today, you've got to be scratching your head. What the hell are they doing? And why are they doing it? Imagine if you are the GM for the Commanders. Hell, maybe Magic Johnson even answered the damn phone. And the GM for the Bears calls and says, hey, we want Montez Sweat. We'll give you a third-round pick. Sign me up. Sign me up, because that's probably the best thing that they're going to get from a team that absolutely doesn't need it. It's going to be a high draft pick because the Bears are going to be bad. So that third-round pick is going to be high in the third round next year. Just crazy. I just don't get it. And you want to know why teams are not good over long stretches of time? It's this kind of stuff. When you're trading for guys you don't need. The Bears should be giving other people their players because they're no longer in the game. But no, they're going to add people. I don't get it. 100% don't get it. It's the craziest thing. I laughed, and Bears fans are in for a world of hurt because if Fields is not the guy, now they've got this defensive lineman that they're not going to sign. They've given away draft picks. None of it makes sense. Make it make sense. I don't understand it. Matt Eberflus, is he going to be there? Who's going to be the coach? Jim Harbaugh? Ryan Day? I don't know. Ryan Day could be out of a job. Who knows? All I know is that the Bears did something really dumb at the trade deadline. But this is what you can take away from the trade deadline. The bad teams, for the most part, did what they had to do. They gave away their assets, or they traded away their assets to get something for them. The good teams shored up where they needed help, and the Bears just did whatever the hell they want because bear is going to bear, I guess. And that's why they're going to be bad this year. That's why they're going to be bad next year. It's going to be a while before we see the Chicago Bears sniffing the playoffs. You can count me on that one.